Hello and welcome to the show today, Lucienne Shakir. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm so excited to speak to you. And yeah, so please can you tell us, what is it that you do and how long you've been doing it for?
Thank you for having me, first of all. I've been watching you for a while and I love your positive energy. It's really connecting. I love it. So thank you for asking me, Trudie. My name's Lucienne. I'm a female empowerment specialist. So I do that through coaching and mentoring. The reason that I've chosen an umbrella term, well, actually somebody else chose it for me. They were like, this is what you do. I'm like, yeah, that is what I do. Female empowerment can take the form of all sorts of things. It can be working with men. I don't work with men at the moment, but, working with organisations to support women, that's female empowerment. So we chose something deliberately that I could grow into and that could be an umbrella for what I do. But principally at the moment, I coach, mentor and teach around female business growth and development, and also empowerment strategies, confidence building, limiting beliefs, working a lot on the neurological understanding that I have of our psychology and how we work as women in our society. So that's what I do in a very long answer.
Yay! I love that. And when did you start your business?
It was 4 years ago. It was 4 years ago that I started. And before that, I was teaching in a leadership capacity for about 12 years.
In a boys' school, wasn't it?
Well, I taught in a boys' school for 5 years, yeah. Yeah, you've clearly been doing your research. Yeah. I taught in a boys' school for 5 years. I taught in a girls' school for a number of years, both of which I loved. I taught in a co-ed school and I also taught in a college. So I've actually taught all of the spheres, private, normal, all of it.
Okay, so why did you go then from teaching into coaching? Was it a push or a pull? Did you kind of just want to leave the teaching profession, or did you really, really feel like you wanted to get into coaching and mentoring? That's
a really good question. I recognised that coaching was really beneficial for the students and for staff as I was training to be a coach. I didn't necessarily want to not do that in education. I wasn't pulled or called into working as a female empowerment specialist. I was definitely pushed. I was such a strong believer in how education can really form and benefit our society, but actually the education system as a whole has become a business, a machine, a conveyor belt, something which isn't actually as helpful to human beings as it could be. And 10 years prior, so a year after I had my son, I had a nervous breakdown. So I was really, good at seeing in myself the patterns of poor mental health, of not really valuing myself, not believing in myself. And I'd recovered from this nervous breakdown. And then I was in a situation in the school where I didn't feel valued, where I didn't feel that the coaching that I was learning to do and was wanting to bring into the school was as valued as it could have been. And I decided that it wasn't good enough for me. And so I left.
It's interesting. It's interesting how many people who I speak to, and it always seems to be the push. It always seems to be that, I couldn't carry on with what I was doing. And it's like, in terms of your business now and where you are, so 4 years after starting your business, how is your mental health? How happy are you now versus how happy you were just before you left the teaching?
That's a really, really good question. I'm so much better now. I am. The strap line of my business has always been empowering women to live a life they love.
Yeah.
Whether that's running their own business or working in corporate or being completely off grid, whatever it is, if you're not living a life that you love, I don't see the point really in striving for anything at all. So, you know, it's all well and good having a great salary, a lovely house, a beautiful car, you know, all of those Western material things that we place a lot of value on. But I know from personal experience that that means very little when we don't have our health, when we don't have our mental and physical health. And mental and physical health are actually one and the same thing anyway. It's really important that we learn to live a life that we love. And I think you know this, I'm really like so hell-bent on running an ethical business.
Yep.
I cannot stand up and preach and lead by example if I'm not making the changes to live a life that I love. So what I have done consistently over the last 4 years since I've started my business, because it's hard work, right? Mm-hmm. Running your own business is hard work. It's like a 4-year-long labour, you know, but every day there's something that happens that is just wonderful. And every day there's something that happens where you're like, oh, I don't know. You know, you've got that roller coaster of emotions happening all the time. But if you can't go to bed at night saying to yourself, I'm doing this for me, I love what I do, I love who I am doing this, then what's the point in doing it? So that has been a mantra of mine, and it's something that I help other women to do. And I couldn't do that unless I was actually doing it myself. So I have changed things that I don't like consistently over and over and over again, because I'm not scared of changing things because they're not right for me.
Absolutely. And I think there's two things that have come out of that for me. So first of all, it is labour, but it's so much more a labour of love. Like you say, there's bits you love, there's bits that you struggle with or whatever, but at the end of the day, you're doing it because you believe in something and you're passionate about something and you want to make a difference and you want to make a change and you want to give to people. I mean, this is part of what you do, right? You give people, you empower people, you make them believe that they are so much better than they could be, than they are, that they really are something more than they even believe or think is possible for them. So for you, that's life-changing for them, but it's also for you, it's like massive and massive sort of satisfaction in getting that back. So you work really hard, but you work for a purpose, and that purpose is what you believe in. And the other thing is, I love you on LinkedIn because you say things as well. You say like you pattern interrupt people by putting it out there. You're a total maverick archetype. I tagged you in, didn't I, the other week? Like, you are so the rebel archetype. You're like one of my favourite rebel archetypes, because you stand there and you go, I'm calling this out. And it caused a bit of a shitstorm on LinkedIn, but I love it. I love that. And because you're so not afraid to say it. And are you there to sort of like cause up a bit of trouble, or you just want to say this? What's your sort of driver for putting it all out there?
Yeah, so there's loads of things that I want to say about what you've just touched on. The first is, I don't think I started doing this because I wanted to help people. I hear a lot of people say, I do this because I want to help people. I think that's something that has been grown and nurtured in me as I've been doing this. I definitely started this business to help myself. Fab. And as I connected more and more with the women that were coming towards me. When I first started, I wasn't coaching just women. You know, as I connected though more and more to these women's stories, and I realized that they were aligned with my own, and having quite a feminist mum as well, and being surrounded by feminist literature, I kind of rebelled against that for years. I felt like feminism was a bit of a dirty word. But being an avid learner and loving to learn, I actually reframed all of that for myself. And I have noticed now that it is a hugely exhilarating thing to help somebody else. But there is no way that I could have been doing that had I not have made the decision to help myself in the first place. So I'd love to say I started my business because it was altruistic because, you know, I really wanted to support people, but it wasn't. It was to support myself. It was to ensure that the time that I spent in existence on this planet was time worth spending. And then, you know, what's come of that is I've learned this thing about myself, which is I love to give back. I actually love to help. You know, I don't know if you know, but I have a really good relationship with my ex-husband. And I was talking to him about this, and he was saying to me, you know, this is what it's all about. When I told him a success story of a client, and I felt absolutely brilliant. He was like, this is what it's all about, Lucienne. And I was like, yeah, but I don't know if that's why I'm doing it. And it's actually taken me these 4 years to realize that these actions that I take, these voluntary, you know, doing things for a community for free or supporting people and not charging them sometimes, it's very rare, you know, but I do these things because I do want to help, and I've learned that about myself. I'm really proud that I've learned that helping other people is something that I enjoy doing, but I would never have thought or said that from myself. You know, I help my family, I help my friends, and society as a whole as well, Trudie. So coming on to your second point, I don't want to cause trouble. In fact, I feel deeply like I don't fit in sometimes, and that's a really counterintuitive human behavior, because essentially we need to fit in. Don't believe anybody that tells you they don't care what somebody else thinks. Unless there is something wrong with you mentally, unless there is some psychological issue that you have, you care what other people think, because that's what human beings need to be part of society, right? So let's just get that bit out of the way. So I care a lot about what other people think, but being who I am, and with justice and fairness being a really strong core value of mine, when I feel something, I can't not say it. So I desperately want to be liked, and that's difficult in this world, but it's much more important and much stronger an impulse for me to write what I write because it's true for me and because it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, and I get that. We all like to be liked and that kind of thing. But for some people, like for me, I couldn't be that one who throws the spanner in the works because I'm such a people pleaser. That's like, for me, I suppose if I cared about something a lot, I would say it. But it would take a lot to induce me to put up a really personal thought on something volatile, like a political or social or whatever, to comment something that I knew would put me in the spotlight to be unpicked. I just couldn't. I would be.
Yeah.
I think it takes
and what you touch on there is that it's not about me. So the story that I share online might be about me, but it's actually about all of the people that are reading it, right? It's about all of those collective experiences that we have as women, or as fathers of daughters, or brothers of sisters, or whatever it might be, husbands to wives, or partners to our partners, is that we share a collective experience in society of it not being easy to be a woman. It is not easy to be a woman, and to have or display or to conquer and feel grounded in femininity, which also has masculinity and is outspoken, because we've had centuries of being silenced. And when you work with women, and you spend as much time as I do talking to women, working through really difficult life situations with women, and then doing a lot of reading and extra discovery around what's happened in history and what's happening today, you would have to be a pretty insensitive person not to be like enraged by what happens. You know, if you spent as much time as I did hearing these stories, listening to the mental anguish and torture, and that's not to say that not everybody that I work with has problems. You know, a lot of the women that I work with are really successful in life and love their lives and don't have to live through trauma, and that's wonderful. But it's rare, you know. So I'd have to be a little bit weird to do what I do and not speak up, because it's my reality.
Yeah, well, good for you. Definitely. I think we need people to stand up and talk about it. And I have you read The Audacity to be Queen by Gino? I love that book. I absolutely love that book. The Audacity to be Queen. And I've even sent some of my clients off to read it, because they say to me, "Oh, Trudie, I can't be this. I can't be perceived as being the best or the greatest or the this or the that," because they don't want to big themselves up too much. And I'm like, right, go and read this book, and I'll speak to you in a week or 2 weeks' time, and then I'll create you a brand. Because from where I'm sitting, you are the best. You are the best, and you have all this knowledge, and you are the expert. So if you don't believe that, then read this book, and then we'll come back to me. And there's one particular client who I did that too. She came back and she's like, "Yes, okay, I am the expert. Let's brand me as the expert in this field." I'm like, hallelujah! It's bless her. She's been doing for 20 years, and she wouldn't label herself an expert. I was like, what? Are you mad?
It's crazy. So I send my clients a couple of books. They get a little gift box when they start. So there's 3 books that I generally send. One is Untamed by Glennon Doyle. You need to read that book. So that is an absolutely brilliant book for becoming untamed and untethered to societal constructs. Glennon Doyle, she's wonderful. She's absolutely brilliant. To tackle wealth and the historic female associations with wealth building, You're a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero. Absolutely brilliant book as well. And then for business growth, and this is what I use with my clients, it's the Traction series by Gino Wickman. So these are the 3 books that I send my clients, as well as some stuff from me around self-coaching, which I think are a trilogy to untying all of the stories that we've told ourselves about who we need to be, and for growing a business that actually is strategic and is well considered, but without the limiting belief factor of being a woman in business. So yeah, I love that. I've written down The Audacity to be Queen as well.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Read that.
I find that, like you just said, you love learning. And since I started my business, so I started in 2016, and the first book I read was Tony Robbins, actually. What was it? Release the Giant Within. And that book changed me. It actually changed me. And this was right at the beginning, and I don't know why I started reading it even. I just did, and I thought, bloody hell, I can be so much more. I can be anything I want to be. If I and it was like a revelation. It was like an absolutely, look up there. I can go up there. And ever since then, I've been reading all sorts of books, anything and everything. I love to listen to podcasts. I love to listen to audiobooks as I'm walking along. And God, it's just opened me up to believing, like you just said, like I believe I can be so much more. And look at me, I'm making a podcast, for God's sake. And And not saying that I'm anywhere near where I want to be, but I believe I can be that millionaire. Like, when you set out to start your business, what did you think would happen? Where did you want it to take you in terms of earnings or whatever, really? Where did you want it to end up?
So I never had an aspiration of making millions. I've had quite a difficult relationship with wealth in my past, and I just don't associate large amounts of money with happiness. I just don't. It's not something that I've seen very often. As I grow in this professional space, I see a lot more happier people who manage wealth well, and I think you have to do a lot of personal work to feel that self-value and that energy that comes with, having that amount of money and doing good with it. For me, I feel that I am a very wealthy person. However, when you reach a certain threshold, happiness doesn't go up exponentially with the wealth that you have, and we know that scientifically speaking. There's a lot of research that's been done into that. There's a lot of people who win the lottery and commit suicide, or end up having less money than they did, before they won the lottery, because they haven't developed themselves and those historic thinking patterns that they have around self-worth, etc., to be able to hold on to the money. So I never had the aspiration to grow a multiple £1 million business. Because it felt so distant and just something that I just didn't even think that was something that I wanted. What I wanted was financially to match my salary, so that we could maintain the lifestyle that we already had. I could do that in a nice office that wasn't far away from my home, where people would come in, sit on a lovely couch, and I'd give them expert guidance, and I'd spend time with people that I wanted to spend time with. I wouldn't have a boss breathing down my neck who didn't value or appreciate me. So really, those were the only things that I was striving for. Now that I've helped 4 women make their first million in their organisation, and there's a couple more on the way. I know, right? I haven't made my own first million yet. Although I can see that it's possible now. I can see that that's a possibility, but I don't have the infrastructure in my business in place to make that a possibility. And you know what? If I'm really honest with you, I don't know if I want that for myself. I really don't know if I want that for myself. And I am not going to strive to create that just because it's a box that I feel that I need to tick. As long as we can travel to wherever we want in the world, whenever we want, we have good food, and if we feel like we want to go out somewhere and do something, we can. As long as we have freedom in our family to do what we want to do and we're not financially constrained, I am happy. I am so happy with that. Yeah. So I can't tell you, Trudie, that I'm striving to be a millionaire, because I don't think I am, but I am incredibly passionate about more women being in that multiple £1 million space, because I think that is what is going to really help society on the whole. I think
that this is who this podcast is absolutely for, because if I wanted to go and talk to loads of millionaires, I'd be the Diary of a CEO. It'd be Stephen Bartlett. He's interviewing millionaires, and I think that for most of us, I said I want to have £1 million. Only one. I'd love to earn £1 million. That would be great. But for me, the aspiration when I started my business wasn't to earn £1 million. It's only now, when I've been reading all these things, I think, actually, I bloody could. If I wanted to, I could.
You can. Yeah.
But when I started, it was exactly what you said. I want to earn as much as I was earning in my last job. I want to be happier. I want to have more freedom. I want to choose, and I don't want to work with arseholes. Basically, I choose who, I choose how much, I choose when, and that's it, isn't it? That's kind of the thing that we work really hard for that.
I think that I do have a fundamental concern with materialism and the earth and how we exploit, what the earth gives us. And I do think, I'm a real petrol head, so I do love my cars, and I do love my motorbikes, and I like speed and I like a great motor, but I would also be quite happy, in a beautiful country, living in the wild by a stream. And I genuinely feel that there's a real, what I used to think was a disconnect, but I now know that it's very connected, where it's either extreme wealth, which I've known, so 6-star, above, like, you name it, you get it. Conversely, on the other end of the spectrum, camping out in a bivvy with just a sleeping bag under the stars and foraging for food. Those two ends of the spectrum are actually quite connected, because for both, you know what you've got and you know what you're getting, right? Whereas in the middle of that, it's all a little bit higgledy-piggledy. Well, can I afford this month, or can I do that this month? And for me, it's those two extremes which are the really nice place to be. And I think a great person to listen to who gives a much better rounded argument around this than I do is Professor Laurie Santos. She is a professor at Yale University. She has a podcast, which is The Science of Happiness, I think it's called. And she talks a lot about this identification with happiness and wealth, and what it actually means to be happy. And another thing that I would like to say is that I'm sick of people believing that they can be happy all of the time, because that is just not realistic. If you are striving to be happy 100% of the time, you're not coming from a grounded place. You're coming from a place where now isn't good enough and you want more, this consumerist idea of more. We need to learn to be in a place of now and gratitude and being here, and understanding that actually in this moment, if we're not feeling okay, that's okay, because that's part of the human experience too. So there's loads in that, and I could talk about it for hours. But for me, I don't see a huge amount of wealth as being something that would make me incredibly happy, But so I don't know.
I'm having this massive debate, shall we say, with my two teenage sons at the moment. So one's 15, one's 13, and they are absolutely convinced, 100% convinced, that they're going to be millionaires by the time they're like 21. And that's what they want. And I was talking to my 15-year-old, the oldest, and I'm like saying to him that, it's all very well to have all this money, but what are you going to do with it? It's not the money that's ever going to make you happy. It's going to be what it brings. That's what could potentially bring you happiness. So what is it that you're looking for? And he said, well, I want a nice house, I want to find a nice woman, and I want to do this and do that. And I was like, so it's not the money. You need security, you need love. And I said, it's not, you've got to look at these things slightly differently, and not, yes, the money's good, money's great, you can do a lot of good with money, but it's not it. That's not life. That is not in itself going to bring you happiness. So, but he's convinced it is. That's all he wants. And I'm like, fine, go do it, earn it, So let's see.
Yeah.
So
yeah, well, I know plenty of people who are incredibly wealthy who are very happy. I know an equal number who are incredibly wealthy and who aren't happy. I know people who earn just above the breadline and are very happy, and I know people who are very unhappy who earn just above the breadline too. It's just an easy way for human beings, and this is something about us that is wonderful, but also is a bit of a limiting factor, is that we love to label and categorize and make things as easy to understand as possible. And that can be really helpful sometimes, but it can be really unhelpful at other times. And because happiness is so subjective, and because it's arbitrary and you can't touch it and you can't see it, we can't label or define it. We don't actually know what it means. If you ask somebody to describe what happiness is, it's a different answer for absolutely everybody. And so what's an easier way of labeling that? Well, happiness equals having a house, having a car, having a partner. It's easy. It's easier to do. And the human brain wants to make things as easy as possible most of the time. But if you live in the world that you and I live in, and you spend a lot of time around personal development and professional development, you learn that actually that easy pigeonholing thinking is not helpful at all to anybody. And so you learn to look a lot deeper into what it is that you actually need to live a life that you love. And money facilitates that. Money makes that right. But if you're a great person, more money will make you greater. If you're a bad person, more money will make you worse. It just magnifies and amplifies who you already are. There's a great book that I read recently called Effective Altruism. And it's all about, how when we talk about, when we're wealthy, we can give back. Learning to give back in a way that actually means something for the future of our society and our world is actually quite difficult to do. It's not just about paying £10 a month to save the children, or running a charity gig somewhere. That's great, but effective altruism is doing things that actually help people directly. There's not an easy answer to your questions or to what we're talking about, because it is complex.
I think though that as business owners ourselves, we are so much more in control of, like you said, you're really ethically led. You get to choose who you work with, who you work for, and how you work. And that's a big thing. And we're all, I'm a massive believer in, we're all tiny droplets, but we do create such big ripples, and the small things that we do have bigger and bigger effects. So we should all live by our values and do what we can to make this place better. And even my mum, who said at the weekend, she says, I'm not shopping in Primark. She said, I know I'm only one person, but I'm not having people sleeping under the sewing machines. And I'm like, good, Mum, and you tell everyone that that's what you do, because you say that to me, and I'm not going to shop in Primark anymore because I don't want anybody sleeping under their sewing machines. And you tell all your friends, and they don't, and then they tell their friends, and then they don't, and this is how it works. So don't buy anything from Primark, Mum, and tell everybody why you're not buying things from Primark, and you're making a difference. We all are. We all do our thing, and we all try our best. Okay, but I know we're running out of time now, but there is just sort of one other thing I wanted to talk to you about, is that when you started and you wanted to match your salary, and you wanted to have no boss, you wanted to be more appreciated, you wanted more freedom, how long does it take? Did you do it straight away? Is it something you work towards? Are you still working towards? What? How long? This is for the people who are thinking, I've got a lovely job, I don't want to give up. What? How long does it take?
So I would not recommend anybody doing what I did, which is handing your notice in and not really having a plan. Although when I do look back, I kind of had a plan that I didn't realise I was working towards. I was creating connections with people. I coached a few people for free in exchange for them telling me how I could improve. That created testimonials. I did a really, really good job with a couple of my clients, and they brought me into their organizations. And so what I would say is, not that I'm lucky, but I will be honest and say that I am a highly skilled coach and mentor. I do what I do very, very well. And so it hasn't taken me very long, because in my art, in my craft, in my skill, I'm doing something that I love and that I'm really, really good at. And so energetically, that grows quite quickly. When you're creating a business because you are striving to make profit. So I don't know if you saw my post about you run a lifestyle business, Lucienne, as if that were some kind of an insult. Well, yeah. It was great for me. It's this perpetual dumbing down female businesses and giving them labels like a lifestyle business, as if that's something that you shouldn't be striving towards. If you are running a business that is centered around scale, right, not just growth, but scale, and let's say you're working in product development, and you need to get it out to a market, you need to source suppliers, you need to quality assure and all of that stuff, I would say it takes quite a bit longer. You either need investment, or you need to use your savings, or you need to have a really, really solid budget plan around how you're going to scale and grow that business, if that's your foresight from the beginning. For me, I didn't need that investment. I didn't need those extra resources. I spent a huge amount of money on training as a coach and on my certifications and all of that stuff. But actually, assets wise and product development wise, I didn't have anything to do. So for me, I met my criteria very early on. Very early on. And because I am systematic, organized, I like tick boxes, I like having structure, I've doubled what I'm doing year on year in terms of profit and in terms of finances.
Amazing.
But you do need to ask yourself a few fundamental questions, like, how much do you want to pay back into the business to grow the business, and how much do you want to pay yourself? Let's look at that 1 million marker as an example. If you're bringing £1 million into your business turnover wise, that isn't £1 million profit. That isn't you having £1 million. You need to understand the distinction between how much you're bringing in, how much you want to reinvest into the business, and how much you want to reinvest in yourself, so that you energetically feel like it's okay for you to carry on. And so there's these principles, and you're asking for your audience, and I really hope that this answer helps. There's a principle where you need to sit down and you need to ask yourself, what do I need first? Yeah. What do I need to cover the bills? What is an absolutely bottom line, what has to come into the business? What would be a nice to have? What would the good place be? How much in that scenario would I be investing back into the business, and what would I be investing on? It's a really good idea to have a good coach and mentor, or even if that's somebody who's doing it for free, who's already in the industry that you want to be in. There's lots of people who do that. Having somebody who's been there and trodden the path before you, great idea. And then map out what is the ideal scenario. So you've got the baseline, you've got the good scenario, and then the ideal scenario. And the ideal scenario would be, without any strings attached, to live in a way that is just brilliant. What are you paying yourself? What are you investing back into the business? Where do you want your business to be when it comes to annual revenue? And that's how you need to be thinking about a business, rather than, I'm going to set up a business and it's going to give me this much money. Because it just doesn't work like that.
Absolutely. And that was the coach in you coming right out there. But yeah, it 100% true. That's exactly what it all is. And surrounding yourself with the right people, even if you, as you say, you can't afford to have a coach. I mean, you've got a podcast that I love listening to that, and I love listening to Carrie Green as well. I just think she's amazing. And there's a whole bunch of people who I love listening to. And I feel that there's a saying that says you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I think, well, I work alone. I have my family, but I don't see loads of people. I don't spend loads of time with lots of people, really. So I feel like by surrounding myself with these great people on their great podcasts and listening to great audiobooks, that I am spending my time with the right people. Does that sound really sad?
Yeah.
I've got pretend friends, basically.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
but
really, we've got access to these people in a way that we've never had before. And, it's all about your attitude to it. You've got a great attitude to learning and to cultivating your understanding of what you're doing. And yeah, we are the sum of those 5 people. If those 5 people, if 3 of those are podcasts that you listen to where you feel really connected and they inspire you, absolutely brilliant. Where life changes is when you connect with people for whom you can open doors and where they can open doors for you. And this is where, the male-centric, patriarchal side of business has really flourished, is because they know how to open doors for other people. And I think where we are still new is getting our foot in the door and opening that door for others to come in. That's when the change happens that's when the £1 million stuff starts to happen, is when you are let in. You're let into the circle and you can let somebody else into the circle. And that's critical. And I would say, to answer your former question, that takes a good 5 years of you showing up consistently and regularly with integrity in your business before that starts happening, unless you already know people.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what's happening. That's what's happened today. I feel really honoured and privileged that you've come on my podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for letting me in and interview you and share your knowledge and experience with everybody else. So that's been amazing. Can you tell everybody how they can get hold of you? Where do they find you online? What do you offer?
Firstly, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be on the podcast. I love what you do. You're so passionate. It's absolutely brilliant. So thank you so much for having me. We are developing the Collective of Extraordinary Women, which is a free community for female founders. And the value within that group is absolutely enormous. I've done this to give back a little bit. It used to be a paid membership, but we've created another tier within that membership, which means that we can do this for free. And what I've found that women most struggle with is that connectedness to other business owners, the feeling like you're not alone, the accountability side of things, being with a group of women where it's not cliquey, it's not man bashing, it is just about growth and it's about you being successful. And so I'm growing that group, which has free accountability on a Monday and a Friday. And it's absolutely brilliant. It's one of the most highly valued aspects of the group work that I do with my existing clients. So all of my existing clients show up for this. But we, with a bit of due diligence on our end, we check you out. We make sure that you're a legitimate business owner, that you are somebody who will make good use of this because it's very valuable. You can join us on a Monday and a Friday to check in your week, to check out in your week, and to have real accountability through my community empowerment manager. It's all done very, very well, very professionally. And that's what we're growing at the moment. And that is a no sales environment. It is completely about you growing and me building my network, and more people knowing about what it is that I do, and more people understanding that they can run successful businesses as well. Just what you were talking about, like, you can do this, and it's only going to benefit me and others if other people are growing too. So, you know, I'd love to say I'm just doing this out of the kindness of my heart. I'm doing it because it will have a fundamental impact on how society works eventually, because there will be more female founders who will be supported through the program. So the Collective of Extraordinary Women, you can find it on any of my profiles on LinkedIn or Instagram. Please come and join us on a Monday at 7:00. We're in our pajamas for half an hour where we set up our week, and on Friday at 1:00 where we check out with your priorities for the week.
Fantastic. Awesome. I'll put that in the show notes and pop in. I'll come and have a look and nosy and say hi.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, we'd love to have you. That would be wonderful. Thank you for having me, Trudie.
Okay, thank you, Lucienne.